Did you see those headlines about Chris Hemsworth and Alzheimer's? For a moment, it sounded terrifying, like a diagnosis, like something inevitable. But here's the truth, and it changes everything. By the end of this video, you'll clearly understand what Chris Hemsworth's genetic risk actually means, what it does not mean, and most importantly, what truly protects your brain starting today, no matter what your genes say. And there's one part later that almost everyone misunderstands, so stay with me. Chris Hemsworth does not have Alzheimer's? That's the first thing we need to say out loud. When Chris Hemsworth shared that he carries a higher genetic risk for Alzheimer's disease, the internet reacted instantly. Headlines oversimplified the story, social media filled in the blanks, and fear took over. Many people walked away thinking he had been diagnosed, or that Alzheimer's was somehow unavoidable. Neither of those things is true. What his story really did was shine a spotlight on a question millions of people quietly carry. If genetic risk exists, what can we actually do about it? That's where clear, practical information matters. So let's slow this down and explain what's really going on. Chris Hemsworth learned that he carries 2 copies of a gene called APOE epsilon 4. This gene is the strongest known genetic risk factor for late-onset Alzheimer's disease. That sounds scary, until it's explained properly. So let's explain it properly. The APOE epsilon 4 gene increases risk. It does not guarantee disease. It does not diagnose Alzheimer's. It does not predict when symptoms will appear. And it does not mean someone will ever develop the condition. In fact, many people who carry this gene never develop Alzheimer's at all. And many people who do develop Alzheimer's don't carry this gene. Genes influence risk. They do not determine destiny. And that distinction matters more than most headlines will ever admit. Now, let's talk about what Alzheimer's risk really means. Alzheimer's risk is not a single test result. It's not a yes or no. It's not a countdown clock. Risk is a long-term probability shaped by many factors. Age plays a role. Genetics play a role. But so do things like cardiovascular health, sleep quality, physical activity, mental stimulation, social connection, daily habits. Some of these factors can't be changed, but many of them can. And this is the part that gets missed when celebrity stories dominate the conversation. Because most of what protects the brain has nothing to do with genetic testing. And that brings us to the most important part of this video. What can you actually do right now to lower Alzheimer's risk? This is where the conversation should always go. And yet, it often doesn't. At this time, there are no medications approved to prevent Alzheimer's disease. Several drugs are being studied, some are promising, but none replace lifestyle-based prevention. Oh, and if you're enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next health tips. Let's dive back in. According to major medical organizations around the world, healthy daily habits remain the most effective strategy we have. Not supplements, not genetic tests, not experimental scans. Habits. Let's break down the ones that matter most. First, regular physical activity. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain. It supports areas involved in memory and learning. It helps regulate inflammation, and it protects the blood vessels that keep the brain nourished. You don't need extreme workouts. Consistency matters more than intensity. Walking, strength training, movement you can stick with. Second, heart and metabolic health. This is huge. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, excess weight. All of these damage blood vessels. And what harms the heart also harms the brain. People often separate heart health and brain health. Medicine does not. Protecting your heart protects your brain. Third, quality sleep. Sleep is not just rest, it's maintenance. During deep sleep, the brain clears waste products, including proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease. Chronic poor sleep interrupts that process, and over time, that matters. Sleep is not optional for brain health. It's essential. Fourth, mental and social engagement. Learning new things, solving problems, staying socially connected. These activities help build what researchers call cognitive resilience. It's not about preventing every brain change. It's about strengthening the brain's ability to cope with them. Isolation accelerates decline. Connection protects. And fifth, addressing hearing loss and depression. These often get overlooked, but untreated hearing loss and untreated depression are both linked to faster cognitive decline. The good news is that both are treatable. Now here's the key point. These steps reduce Alzheimer's risk whether or not someone knows their genetic profile. And that's why medical experts don't obsess over genetic tests the way the media does. After Chris Hemsworth shared his genetic risk, many people focused on the test itself. But doctors focus on something else entirely. Because whether someone carries a risk gene or not, the prevention strategy does not change. Healthy habits protect the brain across the board. They work with genetic risk. They work without genetic risk, and they work without ever stepping into a testing lab. Now, let's address a question that comes up almost immediately. Should you get the same genetic test Chris Hemsworth did? For most healthy adults, the answer from U.S. medical organizations is no. Routine genetic testing for Alzheimer's risk is not recommended for the general population. And here's why. The results rarely change medical care. They don't prevent the disease, and they often increase anxiety. Quick break. But this is important. Did you know that many Americans have high blood pressure? The best way to control it isn't just medication. Natural approaches can make a huge difference and improve your quality of life, even if you don't have hypertension. That's why we created our ebook, Hypertension Made Simple. Everything you need to know to control high blood pressure. Inside, you'll discover things your doctor may not have time to explain during an office visit. The link to get your copy is in the description below. Now, let's get back to it. Knowing you carry a risk gene doesn't come with a unique treatment plan. It doesn't unlock a special medication, and it doesn't offer a guaranteed path forward. In specific situations, like families with unusual patterns of early-onset dementia, genetic testing may be discussed. But it's done with specialists, and it's paired with genetic counseling. For most people, knowing APOE status adds information, not solutions. Now let's talk about the tests people hear about online. First, genetic tests. Direct-to-consumer genetic tests can identify APOE status. They can estimate risk. They cannot diagnose Alzheimer's. They cannot predict timing. They cannot predict severity. And they cannot replace medical evaluation. They offer information, not certainty. Next, brain imaging, like PET scans. PET scans can detect proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. But these tests are usually ordered when symptoms are already present. They're used by specialists, and they're not designed for population screening. They are diagnostic tools, not preventive ones. Then there are spinal fluid tests. Cerebrospinal fluid testing can detect Alzheimer's-related changes with high accuracy, but these tests are invasive, used selectively, and not appropriate for people without symptoms. Now, what about the future? This is where things get interesting. Blood tests for Alzheimer's biomarkers are one of the most promising areas of research right now. The goal is to simplify detection, reduce invasive procedures, and improve accuracy. But at this time, these tests are still being validated. They are not recommended for routine screening, and they are mainly used in research or specialty settings. Promising does not mean ready. Researchers are also studying digital and AI-based tools, things like speech analysis, cognitive testing, advanced imaging. These tools may help identify changes earlier one day, but right now, they remain research tools, not diagnostic standards. So what's the real lesson from Chris Hemsworth's story? It's not fear, it's not genetics, and it's definitely not inevitability. The real lesson is practical. Genetic risk is not destiny. No test replaces prevention. Everyday habits matter more than any lab result. You don't need a genetic test to start protecting your brain. You don't need to wait for future medications, and you don't need a diagnosis to act. The most effective tools for brain health are already available. They're affordable, they're accessible, and they're part of daily life. And that's actually empowering, because it means the story isn't about a celebrity, it's about choices. And those choices are in your hands. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming health videos. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.